So, this is a really old article, and I'm talking really old. This came out in 2013. This was 4 years ago. But it's something I've been meaning to talk about for a while, because it may or may not connect in some way to how Cartoon Network is acting now. May or may not. And the reason why I say that is because, well, we'll get into that later in the video. So, IndieWire posted an article 4 years ago. Blood Boiler of the Day. TV show canceled for having too many smart, interesting girl characters. The show known as Tower Prep. Who remembers that show? When that aired on Cartoon Network. Does anybody remember that show? I remember seeing commercials for it, but I never actually saw it. But this was actually a show. I didn't even know this. It was directed by Kevin Smith. And a lot of the episodes were written by Paul Dini. Those are huge, like, comic book guys. Like, Paul Dini was one of the head guys behind Batman the Animated Series. And who doesn't know Kevin Smith? But yeah, so let's get on to this article. Okay, so this show was canceled because of there was no merchandise line for toys, but not just that, but because they were choosing to make the female characters of the show actually interesting and well-written characters. So here's the discussion. Paul Dini says, "They're all for boys. We do not want the girls." I mean, I've heard executives say this, not where I am, but other places, saying like, "We do not want girls watching the show." Kevin Smith responds, "Why? That's 51% of the population." Paul Dini says, "They do not buy toys. The girls buy different toys. The girls may watch the show," Smith interrupts by saying, "so you can sell them t-shirts if they don't." I disagree. I think girls buy toys as well. I mean, not as many as the fucking boys do, but B, sell them something else, man. Don't be lazy and be like, "Well, I can't sell a girl a toy." Sell them a t-shirt, man. Sell them fucking an umbrella with the fucking character on it. Something like that. But if it's not a toy, there's something else you could sell them. Like, just because you can't figure out your job, don't kill the chances of, like, something that's going to reach an which is audience. That's just so self-defeating when people go, like, these are the same fuckers who go like, "Oh, girls don't read comics. Girls aren't into comics." It's all self-fulfilling prophecies. They just make it that way by going like, "I can't sell him a toy. What's the point?" Paul Dini responds, "That's the thing. I hate being Mr. Sour Grapes here, but I just lay it on the line. That's the thing that got us on Tower Prepped, honest to be God, like, we need boys, but we need girls right there. Right one step behind the boys." This is the network talking. One step behind the boys, not as smart as the boys, not as interesting as the boys, but right there. And then we began writing the stories that got the two girls' backstories. And they were really interesting. And suddenly we had families and girls watching. And girls really became a huge part of our audience. In a sort of like they picked up Harry Potter type serialized. They talk about Harry Potter and about the Batman. But Cartoon Network was saying, "Fuck no, we want the boys. Action, it's boys action. This is goofy boy humor. We've got to add that in there." And we can't. And I'd say, but look at the numbers. We've got parents watching with the families. And then when you break it down, yeah, but so many. We've got too many girls. We need more boys. Smith responds, "That's heartbreaking." Paul Dini responds again, "And then that's why they canceled us. They put on a show called Level Up, which is, goofy nerds fighting CG monsters. It's like, we don't want the girls..." Hold on. Oh yeah, we don't want the girls because the girls won't buy toys. We had a whole merchandise line for Tower Prep that they shit-canned before it ever got off the launching pad because it's like boys, boys, boys. Boys buy the little spinny tops. They buy the action figures. The girls buy princesses. We're not selling princesses. And the article goes on to say, let's put aside the disheartening implication that stories can only be told if they can be reduced to colorful chunks of plastic and sold to a bunch of little kids who can only express fandom through buying merchandise. What Dini and Smith's conversation reveals is that the lazy and incompetent suits at Cartoon Network were so intent on selling to just 25% of the audience, young males, that they completely disregarded that they had captured all 4 viewer quadrants, boys and girls, as well as families, presumably including parents. As Scott Begg notes over at Film School Rejects, it's clear that they don't buy X is another way of saying I don't know how to sell girls X, a problem that might be alleviated by the greater presence of female execs over at the network. They do know that girls love cartoons too, right? And that's actually a very important point that I'm going to get onto in a minute because of what Cartoon Network is like in its current state. Unfortunately, the consequences of Cartoon Network's short-sightedness and, frankly, their piss-poor business decision is the continuation of a media climate hostile to female characters and audiences. Kudos to Paul Dini and Smith for laying bare the jaw-dropping levels of idiocy and complacency we're battling against. So how does that compare to Cartoon Network today? For those of you that don't know, that was 2013. That was back in the Stuart Snyder era. I'm not sure if that was a major Stuart Snyder decision, but because he is only the CEO. This was the decision of mainly the Cartoon Network executives, which are a similar branch but not the exact same branch. I don't know if this was a huge Stuart Snyder decision. Maybe they talked to him about it and he just said, well, if you think it's going to sell more toys, then go ahead, and they just went ahead with it. But yeah, I think it's just business suits just being dick business suits. But how does that affect Cartoon Network today? Well, it kind of does, because we see that a lot. We still kind of see that kind of borderline-ish sexism with Teen Titans Go. Look at how they're clearly trying to target only the male demographic. Yes, the show has characters such as Raven and Starfire, but they're not as wacky or zany or anything as much as Robin and Beast Boy and Cyborg. They're the characters that are always, shaking and rocking their heads and everything. And just Starfire and Raven are just kind of... Raven is just kind of doing her little sulky thing just because that's her character. And Starfire every now and again comes up and says something stupid because that's her character too, is that she just kind of doesn't know our world. But mostly it's the Robin, Cyborg, and Beast Boy show. But that doesn't really... I wouldn't say the Cartoon Network is necessarily still in that mindset, because look, we've got Christina Miller now as our president. She's a female. Obviously, I don't think she would want the exclusion of girl viewers, even if it meant them thinking that boy sales are going to put more money in their pockets. I still think that as a girl herself, being the president of Cartoon Network, I don't think she'd allow that type of sexism. And look, we've even got the Powerpuff Girls 2016 reboot. And say what you want about that show, it's still a show that centers around 3 girls as the main characters. They're the focus. So, obviously they're not trying to alienate girl viewers at that point. But this article blows me away, because how could they be so blind? Girls... Okay, let's rewind time a little bit. Let's go back to the late 90s and early 2000s. What show had probably more merchandise on Cartoon Network than any other show that they've ever had? I'm talking original cartoon that they made themselves. What show had probably more merchandise? Not just, a whole bunch of toys. I'm talking they had toys, umbrellas, they had watches, they had jewelry, they had everything. What show? It wasn't Johnny Bravo. It wasn't Ed, Edd n Eddy. It wasn't Courage or Dexter. It was the Powerpuff Girls, a show starring 3 girls as your lead. They had tons of merchandise. Tons. You couldn't go anywhere without seeing something Powerpuff Girls related. Literally go on eBay right now and just type in Powerpuff Girls in all categories, and you'll be scrolling for days. There's comics, umbrellas, t-shirts, everything galore. I'm sure they made a killing off of sales for that. The only show I can think of that may have come to a close second would be Ben 10, but that didn't come out until years later. I'm pretty sure I think Ben 10 is probably the show that's probably maybe sold the most merchandise, if only because they had a lot of toys and they had a lot of, whatever. But the Powerpuff Girls was huge back in the day. And the fact that they would want to ignore that, saying, oh, girls don't buy merchandise, girls don't buy this, girls don't buy that, is absolutely ridiculous. And if you say that, I would damn well say that you're fucking blind, because clearly you're blind. Comment down below, please. What do you guys think about this? This is a really old article. I've been meaning to do a video on this for a very long time, and I've been reflecting. I've always had this in the back of my head, and I always kind of reflect on how Cartoon Network acts nowadays, and maybe there still is a hint of those executive decisions in mind with their, overplaying of shows such as Teen Titans Go, and We Bare Bears. Though We Bare Bears doesn't really get played that often, but it's still on there. And what's the other one? Not Clarence, that one never shows, but Gumball, which all-star male leads. Powerpuff Girls, the 2016 series, I see maybe once like a week or something on the Cartoon Network schedule, but for a majority of the time it's on Boomerang. So I don't know. Comment down below what you guys think. Let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.